People. Well, welcome everybody. As usual, Kelly DeLucia here from Welch Team at Keller Williams. We also have, let me switch this view for you guys. There we go. All right. Kelly here, Welch Team, Keller Williams. George with me as usual for our weekly market update. So this week we are going to quickly go through kind of the local landscape and then roll right into our topic of the week, which is renovations, what to look out for, what might be worth the investment if you're thinking of renovating something to put your house on the market, if you're purchasing a property, what exactly was done and how can you notice what was done and if it was done properly. So we want to try and tackle it from both angles. So let's go ahead and, hey guys, I see a couple of you guys on here. Appreciate you joining us. Let's go ahead, share my screen, go right into our market update. And right, here we are. I'll move this control panel out of the way. Okay. Well, okay. So weekly trends. What is happening in the market?
So much happening in the world today.
So many things happening in the world today, but local market wise, more of the same story. What we're seeing every week, real low inventory levels, especially, new listings low again, but pending sales are up from where they were last week even, and that's leading to some fewer homes being sold as well. Our sales are being constrained by the lack of inventory out there. So statistically, it can be anywhere between, 25% to 30% down in inventory, depending on, what type of property you're looking at. And that's a huge chunk. We would be able to sell more property if there were more houses to sell. George, you've probably from the buyer side, you've got people that are waiting for something to come on the market that fits their criteria.
Yes, there are. We have so many people right now, and not just, from our perspective, but from the entire real estate industry. We see so many people saying that, hey, we don't have enough homes on the market. Mm-hmm. We have perfect buyers. I see every single day in any social media feed asking, hey, is there property coming up that matches this criteria? Do you guys have a home in this neighborhood coming up? Right. So everybody is seeing that lack of inventory that is really, really hurting the ability to find the right home. And eventually people are going to just come off the market because they're going to say, hey, let's just wait till, next year or something like that. Let's stick with our current home. I've had 2 people say that they've made the decision to just stay in their current home.
Right. So, right. Doesn't mean that they might not, go somewhere else if the time was right, or if they found the ideal fit. But, we're constantly reaching out to fast customers, people who live in neighborhoods that we know have a lot of high demand, calling and placing phone calls for our buyers that are out there looking like, hey, anybody, even if somebody was sitting on the fence thinking maybe yes, maybe no, we are actively trying to pursue those individuals and those home sellers because we do know that there is such a high demand in some of those areas. So, more of the same. Our market continues to week in and week out kind of hold its own in terms of how many listings we see coming on the market, how many listings we see going under contract. One thing that we saw that we talked about that we said we were going to start tracking, and we'll go back to the screen share, was what about homes that came back on the market? So last week, 241 homes came back on the market. So they were under contract, and for whatever reason, whether that was inspections, financing, buyer just changed their mind, the home purchase did not go all the way through to closing, and now it's available for sale again. So I think, personally, this happened to one of our listings. We are seeing buyers, interestingly, feel like they have more flexibility maybe in what they're purchasing. Maybe they're not as, they really want to get into a property but they do want to make sure that it's the right property. And that's scary, even though there's nothing available, you know, they're not being driven by the scarcity mindset as much. Maybe, right, wrong?
A little bit, yeah, definitely. We're seeing that. Plus, then we're seeing that um, because more and more homes are coming on the market, but at a slower pace, they have settled for a home and then have decided that this other home that just came out 3 days later, a week later, 10 days later, they want to jump into that one instead because it fits their situation or their need a little bit more. So we see a lot of that where people are making that second, changing their mind per se, instead of waiting on an inspection or financing or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But because that's happening, it's going to happen. There's always going to be another home. There's always going to be another property that pops up that fits your criteria, maybe a little better. It's always like that shiny new thing that pops up. You know, should you go after it or should you just stick with what you have?
I don't know. That's up to them.
Yes.
Right now, you might be waiting a little bit if you want to find the absolute most perfect property. And the good thing is we're talking about renovations today. So maybe you decide you want to fix her upper. You know, interest rates are so low that maybe getting into a property that it needs some elbow grease, you know, is something that you'd be willing to entertain. You can even get a renovation loan and have all that work done for you before you move in. So what, sorry, my cat's down here. The cat is here. So if you hear the cat, she'll pop in the background. Refinances, some of the national news of the week that we've been looking at, refis. So the government decided that in order to essentially slow down some of those refis, this is only on conventional loans. This does not apply to FHA and VA loans, interestingly enough, the government-backed loans. But if you are looking at refi and conventional loan, they have increased the cost of that by 0.5 percentage point. And that is not an upfront cost that you pay, but it is a cost that is rolled into your loan, which in our neck of the woods, probably adding about $1,400 to your total loan. Is that significant enough? I don't know, George. Is that significant enough to slow people down from pursuing that refi?
Not really. I mean, it depends on, I guess it depends on your price point primarily. If you're on an average 250 or higher price point for a purchase, chump change. When you go from a 5.5% to maybe a 2% interest rate, 2.5%. So the savings alone for when you're dropping down those interest rate points makes up for, you know, a little bit of a higher cost up front. So no, I don't. Everybody's going to have a number that's in their head, but I mean, when you got to look at the savings overall and see if that makes sense or not. Right.
If you're saving $200-300 monthly, you might have that cost essentially paid for in.
Right. And on average, most people are saving about $300 to $400 a month.
Is that the average now? $300 to $400?
Yep, just heard that because so many people that were in an interest rate. Just take this in. Between 3 to 4 years ago, the interest rates were sitting between 4.5% to 5%.
Okay.
3 years down the road, everybody's been sitting between 3 to 2.5%. I mean, that's a significant. It's a 2% difference in your interest rate, depending on when you got it. And I know people that are refinancing from a year ago or 2 years ago, even just because it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
The costs are such a big difference right now.
There is a huge. I mean, I did it. And 2-year loan. It's almost low enough now, and that was in March. Rates are almost low enough again that it would make sense for me to refi again.
Right.
Is no limit to the number of times you can refinance your home, in case anybody is wondering, and you don't have to wait a significant length of time before applying to do that again. Just some food for thought there.
Look at your numbers, especially when you're this early into a mortgage. If you're only a year or two or less than 5 years in, it kind of makes sense to do that refi and just do another 30 years out. Now, if you're 15 years in, that's a different story. You probably should look at a 15-year or a 10-year mortgage.
Right, which a lot of people are doing. I mean, not exactly what we were talking, what we thought we were going to end up talking about this week, but, maybe something that people might want to learn a little bit more about in a following week. why somebody might choose to go in that direction, 15, 20, 30-year loan. But to keep us moving forward today, so forbearances, we talked a little bit about last week in terms of, a lot of those are coming due in September. The good news is that trend is still staying positive, and by positive, I mean more people are starting to pay their loans again and not ask for extensions. Now, the people that were in a dire situation prior to mid-March, are still in most likely a worse situation. And unfortunately, that is going to become a factor in the future for the market. But right now, forbearances are having a generally positive trend. Inventory down nationally. We already talked about inventory here, but that's a national trend as well. And interest rates still historically low. So we talked about refinances, but your actual purchase interest rates are between 2.5% and 3%, depending on your credit score, income, debt to income, all that good stuff. So still an absolutely amazing time to get into a new property. So let's go to our topic of the week. We were going, and sorry guys, I'm trying to share this in a couple places right now here too. I'm not doing a very good job multitasking. Hey, this is the honest hour on Facebook as well. Can't really hide on live broadcasts. So we had a viewer suggestion of a topic that they would like to learn more about, and that was with home renovations. So our market is a really big market for older, we have a lot of older homes in Jacksonville, Northeast Florida, St. Augustine. Most of our homes 30 plus years old. Some may have gone through some minor cosmetic updates. Some may have gone through total home renovations, but we still have properties here that might have original wiring, original plumbing, a lot of original systems. And those are some of the key things that are really going to make a difference between what type of renovation are we looking at? Are we looking at a renovation that was really done fully, or just a few small minor items so that somebody could flip the house and get it back on the market? And so where should you really look to see where that money was invested? And then where can you maybe pitch in and do some of that work after you purchase? So with that said, I'm going to go back to our screen share. And a lot of this knowledge, just so you guys know, this knowledge comes from our combined experiences, George and I and the team. And then, conversations that we've had with our home inspectors, resources that we utilize online to get average costs of certain items, things like that. But a lot of this is, real, true anecdotal stories from our own experiences in real estate. And we've been through enough transactions over the years to have seen a lot, the good, the bad, the ugly. So yeah, a lot of ugly out there, a lot of ugly. Luckily, it's not, 2011, 2012, where I feel that there were a lot of renovated homes that were just real quick investor fix and flip rehab type homes. A lot of problems popped up after closing for a lot of home buyers. So I think, some people learned their lessons back then, and there are a lot of buyers out there that are much more savvy, a lot more home inspection companies out there that use the latest technology that really help people look at any underlying issues that maybe we can't cover those issues up as easily anymore as could have been covered up. So bang for your buck items. Now this is whether you're looking at fixing your house up to get it on the market, or one of the questions that we get all the time, well, I want to put in a pool, or I want to put in, a kitchen remodel. How much should I spend? Am I going to get the money that I spend back out when I go to sell? Of course, there are a lot of factors that are going to go into that. What type of remodel are you doing? How long are you planning on living in your home before you sell? Do you have equity in your purchase? Do you have equity in your property already? What are the surrounding neighborhoods doing? Everything is case by case, but these are some general things that should hold true. Paint, first and foremost. Paint, it's one of the cheapest things you can do, the inside of your house, the outside of your house, to update and renovate your home and add value immediately at a low cost. You can hire somebody, but you could also go to the home improvement store and pick up a couple gallons of paint and do the painting yourself.
And honestly, and it's not like, and you don't have to do a complete paint job. I mean, even touch up paint throughout the house makes such a big difference. For me personally, I know when we were looking to list our home, we have dogs and kids. So the bottom 2 feet of the entire house looked like it needed to be painted again. So, which is what we did. We went through and repainted that area. It makes it look better. The fresh paint smell actually makes it homey for the home, to see that, hey, you've done some work to it. You've been keeping up with the home. So I think that's an important factor for a lot of people that don't, and that's by far the cheapest thing to do, unless least amount of labor too.
These are, some of these are just general homeowner maintenance items that if you choose to do them, especially prior to selling, you will recoup your money, whether that's in time, time spent on market, a quick sale, or in the actual dollar for dollar cost of doing the job. So paint inside and out really exterior paint. We live in Florida. We have a lot of stucco homes. If you have stucco and you need to seal those stucco cracks, sealing stucco cracks and then painting, that's a huge, 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 huge thing that is going to save you a lot of, you might not have somebody that purchases your house simply because you have stucco cracking and you need those stucco cracks sealed and painted, because a home inspector will go and tell you that, oh, maybe there's water intrusion because of the cracks. So really maintaining that exterior maintenance of the home is key. Plus it adds to curb appeal. And we all know that what you see when you drive up to a home is the first impression of that property. It is the face of the home. Flooring, lighting. Flooring is, nobody wants to walk on your dirty carpet where you've clipped your toenails a bunch of different times. And there's stains from pets and kids, and maybe you dropped a glass of wine over the years. So flooring, that doesn't, there's different types of flooring updates. You could be somebody that's like, I'm going to put in all hardwood because I want to live here. I want to live here and have hardwood. Or I am the person who wants to update my flooring simply to put it on the market and sell. And there are cost-effective ways of doing that too. So flooring is a key thing. Lighting. I think one of the lights literally above me went out while we were on here today, because I've noticed that everything around me has gotten dark, and flooring or lighting makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference whether you're on camera and you have a million Zoom calls, or someone's coming in to see your house. People want to see a house that is light and bright and airy, and it doesn't look like any dirt is hiding in the corner, George, or like mismatched like LED and incandescent, and like what do the buyers say when you walk into a home and you can't figure out the light switches?
And that's a huge factor. I mean, lighting itself, a lot of people use a dimmer or a lighter, kind of the old light bulbs, to where it makes the place look dull or just not bright. So that's always the key factor. So going with an LED, a daylight color versus the softer colors makes a big difference, that when you open a door, you flip on a light and it brightens up the whole room.
Yep.
Even the fact of having new lighting makes a big difference. I know with a lot of homes, with especially anything that's built in the past 20, even 15 years or older, has the real soft lighting, which is great if you like it. But if you're trying to show it and you want to showcase your home, you need a bright light. If you don't have natural light, that's what you need to use.
Yep. 100%. Some of the bigger things, kitchens. Kitchens in our area are a hot topic. Everybody hears kitchens and bathrooms sell homes, and they do. But you also have to have, you also have to keep in mind where you're selling that property at. A kitchen, not every kitchen has to be white. White was such a trend for so long. It still is. We have a lot of coastal areas. People like to see the white. It's a big thing, but you don't have to go white. But, there are different types of kitchen remodels out there. You can get up to 81% of that kitchen remodel back. It depends on how, an 81% would be, modernizing, the cabinets and the counters. Doesn't mean you need granite. Some people like quartz. Some people like quartzite. Some people like a butcher block. There are options out there. Updating those appliances, your sink, your faucet, the flooring in the kitchen. Those minimal updates can get you 81% back. Upscale kitchen remodels, so we're talking, sub-zero fridge, wolf range, those generally you're only getting about 35% back. Again,
Okay, that's a lot. I mean, if you're going that high end, you've got to be in that area and
yes,
really want to stand out compared to some other areas, because otherwise, just the standard higher end stainless steel appliances are just as good and look good, work well when they're new compared to kind of the older ones.
yeah. You need to know your audience
Mm-hmm.
and know where you're at. If you're going to live there for 20 years and you want to do what you want to do, that's amazing. But don't over improve your home just to put it on the market. That's not going to be worth it. But for plenty of people, definitely invest where you enjoy spending your time. Bathrooms, 56 to 70%, depending on what you do. So we see a variety of bathroom updates. You could have the original builder grade vanity where somebody has painted the cabinet, but it's the low height and they put a new countertop on, put a new framed mirror and updated the lighting. And that's going to get you about 70% of your money back. It's also going to help sell your home. That's a quick update that most homeowners can do themselves. A total gut job bathroom renovation, or adding a bathroom. So you don't have a powder room. You want to add a powder room, or you have an office and maybe you can add a bathroom to that and make it another ensuite, whatever it may be, 56% return. Those are some really good numbers. Landscaping, 56 to 70%, or landscaping, sorry. I didn't attach a number to this. Everybody has a variety of what they consider. Some people like hardscaping. Some people like lush trees. Some people like a huge yard that they can bring their RV and their boat, and all they need is a double gate fence and flat land, and that's good with some privacy trees around. For landscaping, wouldn't you say, George, that neat, maintained, so that when you walk up, it looks inviting, and low maintenance? If your bushes in landscaping are not neat, stop it. That sounded bad. Then then people are going to think that it's going to take way too much time and effort, especially in the middle of the hot Florida sun, that they don't want to deal with your landscaping, and they might pick another property because of that. Have you ever had that happen, George?
Yes, 100%. I mean, I agree. When it's all about curb appeal. You walk up to the house, you want to be able to say, "Wow, that is a fantastic entrance for your home," because your home, and then that includes your paint, the exterior paint. It needs to the landscaping that you have needs to accompany your home style. Make sure that it's not, you don't have like 6 palm trees out, all like 15 bushes in there, all just kind of all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
A ton of mulch or other plants. So it doesn't want to be big. You don't want to have to be too busy. You just want it to be nice enough to where it adds a little bit of color. It looks good, and it does. Yeah, I agree. 100% is keeping it simple and lack of a ton of maintenance, because nobody wants to be out spending their Saturdays and Sundays trimming bushes, cutting leaves. Just everybody wants to enjoy their weekends and may want to kind of keep it simple.
Right. Windows. So if you have single pane or older windows, even the window frames, can look old and outdated these days. If you had windows that were installed in the 80s, the framing, the casing looks different. So 76.7%. Now that's a combination of return on your install and what you get in energy savings as well. So, but those are things that buyers are going to look at too. Am I going to have an energy efficient home? That's important to people. Exterior, this is, outdoor living. Exterior decking, patio, outdoor living space, 63 to 82%.
I actually think this is probably something a little bit more popular now.
Yeah.
Based on everything that's been going on the last 6 months, because that's what if you're trapped in your home, you want to have a great outdoor living, patio, deck, pool, big yard, whatever it might be, because that's where you're spending probably majority of your time as a family.
Yep.
So that it's important. Hence the reason why every pool company is backed up until summer of next year. It's crazy.
Literally. And I didn't put pools on here because pools are so, I mean, we see such a variety of, you can spend 100 grand on a pool, you can spend 35,000 on a pool. You're never going to get 100% value out of your pool. You might get 15,000 to 30,000 back at the time of sale, depending on your neighborhood. So that's just a rule of thumb. If you have a really blinged out pool with some water features, maybe a slide, rock, whatever, rock walls, maybe you're getting 30 grand back. But pools are really for your enjoyment while you're in the home.
Mhm.
And then the roof. So roof is an appeal item, obviously an appeal for a new buyer, got a brand new roof. But also if you're living in your home and you need a new roof, you don't have an option there. You need to put the roof on. But generally, if you're spending, let's say 2,400 square foot home, you've got a $10,000, $15,000, maybe $1,000 roof on there. You'll get that back in terms of resale value. 100%. So we spent a lot of time actually talking about those items, but I feel like people were pretty interested in those. And Lori gave a shout out to baseboards. When you're painting the inside, pay particular attention to bright, shiny baseboards. And that is so true. Get rid of the dog hair, the cat hair, the dust bunnies, the scuff marks from the chairs, where the dog laid on the wall and you got the grease from their, fur. Those are big, easy items to fix. Anybody can get down with a little paintbrush. So it's not always sexy, some of the updates that you have to do. And when you're going to purchase a property that has been renovated or updated over the years, these are the big ticket items that we really should be investing our time and efforts in investigating how they were done and were they done properly, who did them, or their permits, things like that. So we'll get into them in more nitty gritty, but these are, the home itself might need some cosmetic updates. Sure, it might not have light bright walls and the latest greatest kitchen countertop in there, but what if all these items were done? Plumbing, electrical, roof, your systems like your HVAC, excuse me, drainage, I put that on there. Like Florida, we have a lot of water, standing water. Does it have, are you near a water source, the beach, the river, lakes? What does that look like for you? Do you need a bulkhead? Do you need some sort of French drain? There are some properties that even need sump pumps to pump the water out. So because of our low-lying areas, looking at how the drainage is set up on properties is very important too, and often overlooked.
Right. Oh, I think the drainage is a big factor right there for a lot of people because they don't look at years or decades worth of settlement over certain areas, which will make the water flow in a certain direction towards your home, towards your driveway, whatever it might be, which is going to continue to cause more problems. I think that's one of the biggest factors people miss when they're looking at older properties, that drainage could be a factor. And some of the older drainage, just can't handle the flow of water and the amount of capacity that's out there right now. So that can always cause a bit of concern if you're not used to certain areas that may be prone to flooding.
Absolutely. And we are in hurricane season right now. So I'm sure we'll start to get some of the questions that always pop up around hurricane season when it's top of mind for people. So what's happening behind the walls? There are a lot of things that go into all the things that we talked about on the previous slide. A lot of those issues may have been corrected, and I'm doing air quotes right now, by the person doing the renovation. But if they weren't done properly, you won't know. They're hidden. And I pulled this top 3 from a national report on the top 3 hidden problems that people post-closing find in their homes. So these people could have even done a home inspection. But these are the top 3 problems that nationally people report that they may not be able to recoup anything from the seller in terms of, do they get any restitution if the problems pop up after the sale? So mold. So here we are in Florida. If we had water intrusion, drywall may have been replaced, but what happens if the studs had mold on it and wasn't properly treated? If there was mold, was it mitigated? are there any reports pertaining to that? So these, I mean, these are very, we have dealt with these problems. These are not just, oh, it could happen to somebody else, not me. This is a very real life problem that happens to home purchasers in our area. So George, if you are working with a buyer and they know that there has been some sort of water intrusion in the past, what are some of the typical things that you guys are looking for?
Well, and one of the key things with why these things are really hidden is because 99% of these renovated homes are vacant, so
Right.
they're not being used in the regular capacity that other people would, which is why if there is any type of a leak, yes, in Florida it rains all the time, but we also go weeks without rain. So if there's a leak or something like that, it's not like they're sitting up there and spraying water in all different directions to see if it leaks.
Right.
So
Right.
you may not be able to see some of those situations, and the fact that mold can, if the AC is not running or if the AC is constantly running, whatever it might be, might create mold or help eliminate things like that. Foundation, if the water is not being used on a regular basis and just being tested here and there, it's not enough to show those type of water leaks, or the plumbing. So that's really one of the biggest reasons why when I'm walking a home or our agents are walking a home with renovated homes, we're looking at potential items that have been changed out, or we're looking at the history, we're looking at permitting, we're looking at several different things to make sure that going into it, that you got a well renovated home, and that it's going to then not going to be any potential hidden problems showing up down the road.
Right.
Because like you said, a home inspector could very well in a situation come out in one day and realize there's none of these problems there, but a month or 2 months down the road, when the home's being used regularly, these issues all start popping up.
And foundation, you mentioned it briefly. Most of our properties here are slab, on grade property. So built, concrete poured, slab poured, and home built on top of that. We have several more historic areas where we have, off grade, either on stilts, blocks, whatever it may be. Some of the more San Marco, Riverside, Avondale areas of town, Murray Hill, that you see that is more common.
Well, the hardest problem with those off-grade homes is the fact that a lot of times what we see is that when you do a home inspection, when you crawl underneath the home, and I've crawled a lot of homes in my day, not in this capacity as a real estate agent, but I did work for a pest control company at one point, and I used to crawl underneath homes in San Marco downtown area. But in that aspect, if you have insulation in under their house, you're covering about 75 to 80% of the beams. So you're not going to be able to identify if there's a leak in the foundation, or if there's any foundational type of situations, if they're covered. And from the home inspector's perspective, it's not like you can pull everything down because it's not easy to put that stuff back in. So there's so many potential things can go wrong, and that's so you just have to be mindful and keep that in the back of your head. Maybe I may have to fix something down the road, potentially.
And I think too, when we talk, like we'll talk about home inspection in a second, and I know that this is going much longer than we normally do, but I think this is great info. Home inspectors are looking at the general home. They are not experts in each of the individual structural areas or system areas of the home. So what a home inspector might identify might be just the beginning of the process. You might then want to seek some more substantial documentation from somebody who is in the structural foundation, world.
Right,
And
especially when it comes to foundation.
Exactly. Water intrusion even under those crawl spaces, if there are now, like, vapor barriers are much better than what they were, even 10, 15 years ago when they were installed in those houses, or not installed at all. So lots of things you can look for. And then plumbing. So plumbing is, we can tell where the plumbing hooks up to fixtures. There are certain things that can easily be identified as plumbing, was it updated? But unless you are doing a full search on, like, was it a repipe or was the entire, were all the sewer lines replaced too? Unless you get somebody in there who's scoping all of those lines, a general home inspection might not catch all of those items. It could also be pinhole leaks under your slab, over time that create a large slab leak. So there's a lot of different things. We don't say this to scare you guys, but these are the things that I would be, if I wanted a renovation, I would want to know that these were the items that were updated over time versus, or if I was going to do my own renovation, I would pay a lot of attention to versus the color of the cabinets or the type of countertop, things like that.
The biggest factor is you start with the age of the home. If something in the 2000s, obviously the newer the home, the more higher standards for building codes, city codes, everything has changed. So if you're looking at a home from 1900 versus looking at a home from 2000, there's different factors to consider. So that's really where it comes down to, and you want to look at it. And it's not like in 1920, 30, 40 that they had permitting online that you can just pull up and say, oh yeah, look, they had a permit here, they had a permit here, they had a permit there. That's just not the way it works all the time. It's really just been in the late 80s to 2000s that permitting has been placed online.
Yeah. I mean, just try and buy something in historic St. Augustine. You won't find any.
No.
So speaking of, what are the things that you must do when you are going and you're taking a look at some of these renovations? It's not all renovations are done equally. So of course, have the home inspection completed and include systems, whether or not it's required by your lender or not, or if you're using cash and you don't technically have to do all these inspections, get a septic inspection, get a water quality test. If you're in an area that's, in a well, you're wondering about the aeration system, do a real pool inspection, do on new construction, do your pre-drywall inspection. There are special inspections for different things on a home. George, would you say that most people don't take advantage of all of the opportunities they have to do due diligence?
Yes, no, I 100% agree. Because everything comes with a cost. A standard home inspection isn't cheap. You're averaging about $400 to $500 for a home inspection, and that's before you start factoring in. You have to do a sewer scope, you have to do a well test, you have to do a septic test, a septic inspection, a pool inspection. So there's all of those things start adding up, whether the home inspector does it or you have to get a specialist out there to do it as well. Those are all small things that go more and more into play that has to be done. The sewer scope, which is really important these days, whether we're looking at an old home or new construction, to find, I don't know how many times we've gone through those things and seen breakdowns in the piping, in clogs, and times that it has been skipped. And within the first 2 days of living in the home, your plumbing backs up back into the home because a section is clogged by
raw sewage.
And no, it's just, unfortunately, it's like things fall into place while you're building. Your paper towels that you're using to wipe stuff down, the little pieces, parts in there, swipe it down into the piping, and it's gonna get washed away. Nope, not always.
You're right about that. Which is also why they put porta potties on new construction sites to hopefully prevent other people from doing things that might potentially damage your brand new home. Check for
fully functional yet.
Well, yeah, but they keep them there. They're not letting people go through your house. They keep them there through the full construction. The permits. Sorry, I was looking at a Facebook question. Permits. So we just talked a little bit about that. There's, check for permits, especially if somebody in this day and age, we just purchased this house 6 months ago. We spent the last couple months fixing it up, and now we're putting it on the market. Your classic investor fix and flip. They should have permits for their work. There's no excuse for that. If they're doing unpermitted work, then you're taking on that liability in the future if you choose to purchase that property. And depending on your loan type, they may not let you purchase a property with open permits, or if they find out, that certain unpermitted items were done. So please check for permits. You don't
Yes.
have to do that. You can have your real estate agent do that, and the title company can help out with that as well. Check receipts and check at the contractor. So it kind of goes along with the permits. Now, this might not always be realistic. A seller might not always provide receipts to you of what work that was done. Maybe they can provide a general scope of work so that you can see who completed that work, what contractor it is, do they have a good reputation. Obviously, people are generally not going to let you know exactly how much it costs them to do the work because, of course, everyone's here to make profit on reselling their house. Ask for a seller's disclosure. So it's one of the most overlooked items, that I see on a daily basis that buyers just, even if they get a seller's disclosure, which is what the seller themselves are representing all the material facts and defects on that property. And this is what your legal recourse. If the seller has blatantly not disclosed something on the seller's disclosure that they knew about, it is hard to prove sometimes, but this is what you need to have legal recourse on a property if you close and something happens after the fact that the seller did in fact know about. So, but I see buyers all the time quickly breeze through the seller's disclosure, not actually read anything on there and sign it and then just be done. Where it may very well have been checked off, the property had flooded in the past, and if you had known that, if you had taken the time to look at that, then maybe you would have hired, or maybe there more attention would have been paid to certain aspects of the inspection.
Right. And also factoring, it doesn't matter whether you've owned the home since it was built or you purchased it 3 months ago. It's a account of what all the seller knows of the particular property. There are many situations where that's why the option of unknown is in the seller's disclosure. So people can say, I don't know, that's your responsibility as a buyer to go in and investigate.
Right.
But if they know what appliances, when certain things were done, if they have a history, then that's what the seller is supposed to fill out. And it annoys me when a lot of agents put that in. It's like no seller's disclosure.
It's tough.
How is that possible?
Yeah, you have to know something.
Yeah.
Agree. So our last little section here, these are the things that really make a difference in profit margin for an investor. So, and things that you really want to keep your eye out on, whether you're negotiating or you're actually worried about what potential things might pop up in the future, or what are some of the lingo that might be used to market a property in order to have it comp out with other homes. So you have a home that was moderately renovated, it shows well, it's the lipstick on a pig version, and they're priced at $300,000, but so is the house that was totally gutted, renovated down to the studs, and really redone. It's basically new, and they're priced the same. Which one actually is worth the $300,000? So faux versus faux real. We see this all the time. How do buyers feel, George, about painted and refinished cabinets versus brand new installed cabinetry?
Oh, I mean, it's funny. I mean, when we talk about the shiny new things, because your painted and your new cabinets can look almost identical. But it really, if you pay attention to a lot of painted cabinets and realize, did they do it professionally or did they do it themselves? I was in the house the other day, opened it looked nice gray cabinets. It was like, oh, that looks really nice. And I could roll close to it, I can still see the drips of the paint. Open it up and it's still brown on the back end.
Right.
Right.
And that's where you can catch it too. Open that cabinet up, open the drawer up. What does it look like? Or check the underside of the cabinet. Like the unfinished space under the cabinet really drives me nuts.
Correct. And it's clear then, I mean, it was done more for, the sellers did it themselves or it was an unprofessional person that did it. So over time, that's something that you're going to have to change out. So you can always say and it will still be advertised as brand new cabinets.
Right.
brand new painted cabinets. So, but
Right.
yes, that's
Updated,
definitely an important factor.
updated.
Updated. Yep, agreed. Updated.
All right. Our next faux versus for real. Refinish tub or a new bathroom. So I meant new bathroom as in, did they take everything out? Did they put a new shower pan in? Have they put new green board in behind the tile and really refinish that space? Or did they just get the spray paint white out and refinish that cast iron tub?
Or put a bath fitter on it, because that we see. I mean, obviously that's a popular thing a lot of builders do too, but we see that tons and tons of time where they just put the new bath fitter over it, and didn't take. And a lot of times, it is cheaper, but a lot of times what we see is that there was leaks and other factors involved, which is now hidden, and you have no way to know that.
Yep, that's right. All right, what's our next one? Faux electrical. So faux electrical updates. So maybe they switched out some outlets, put some GFCIs in, they switched out their breaker panel, or did they for real update everything and rewire a home? We have a lot of homes even built though in the 80s around here that might need a total rewire.
Right.
Like ripping out the wire, and that's what we mean by rewire, like ripping out the old electrical or rerunning electrical, depending on where it's at. Sometimes it's easier than others. Is it behind the wall? Is it running through the attic? But those are big deals. There are certain outlets that are required to be in wet areas now that weren't required back then. Certain electrical panels that have been known to cause electrical fires that are very hard to get insurance on these days. So key things to look at when somebody says that they have updated electric.
Right. Well, and the biggest thing I see there in a lot of the older homes is that it's still a 2-pronged power panel instead of the grounded typical ones that you should have.
Right.
And it's supposed to be updated.
I don't know what I'm doing there. It is. It's
clicking on stuff.
I'm just a mess. All right, so this one hits home for me. Faux repipe, this word, or was it for real? Did they replumb? Now they are used interchangeably. When you have something that's been repiped, those are water supply lines that have been redone to PAX or CPVC, whatever it may be, PVC, but that only talks about your hot and cold water supply lines running to your fixtures. The waste lines running out of the house and to the street for sewer would be the more all-encompassing. The property was replumbed entirely. And those terms may be tricky. They might not technically be, if you said that it was replumbed because you redid your water supply lines, that's not entirely inaccurate, but this is one of those big ones for me because I thought my entire house, according to my insurance and the seller's disclosure, had been completely replumbed, only to find out during a bathroom renovation that I was going to be incurring some extra costs to replace old cast iron sewer piping. So fortunate, why does that even matter? Like, why would anybody care about their sewer line, George?
Because there's a reason why cast iron pipes and all that have been replaced. They degrade over time. Well, they probably have degraded over time to where they're just not quite going to be able to handle the flow of that's going to affect your foundation. That's going to affect your landscaping around. And it is a significant expense to have that redone if you have to be the one to do that at some point. And
it's a pain. You're talking about jackhammering through your foundation in most cases to rip out and replace old cast iron piping. So you might be spending a couple nights away from your home. These are thousands of dollars in difference between total replumb. Plus, if these are things you can't see, you talked about unless you're doing some sort of sewer scope, and you can't see. I took you know, everything at face value, that everything had been totally replumbed, you know, I never would even have thought to have hired somebody to do a sewer scope. Had I done that, I would have known that my cast iron, there were cast iron pipes under the house, and they were completely deteriorated. I consider myself to be one of the very lucky people that, because I hadn't totally electively decided to renovate a bathroom, that I discovered this problem on my own. If I hadn't discovered this problem on my own, not only would it have been a costly repair in the future, but it could have damaged so many more things in the home, not covered by insurance. So that is a faux versus for real that can hit home in a big, big way to the pocketbook. And then our last one, faux additions. You know, faux, I'd say this, I didn't really know how to word it, but you know, you have a garage that's been enclosed, for instance, and they've called it, you know, that's your fourth bedroom or your extra living room, whatever it is, garage conversion. They've added an HVAC in there, you know, vented it or put a mini split in here, versus the person that actually completed a full addition to the property, cut into the exterior wall, reconnected the roof line, things like that. You know, those are big ticket items that maybe you still have the same amount of square footage, but they're really not apples to apples.
No, 100%. Those, I mean, those, because you're doing a lot more than when you're enclosing a space to add to your square footage. It's just not heated and cooled. You've got to make sure that it's actually insulated correctly, especially if you're doing a garage, because typically those exterior walls in the garage are not insulated like your interior walls would be inside the home. So as well as those spaces above into the attic is not insulated as well. So there's so much more than just, you know, putting up some drywall and running a, you know, a vent to it, because and think about the capacity of an AC unit. Could that manage this extra, you know, 300, 400 square feet of space? So those are always big factors that people, if you haven't done it correctly, will be a issue for you somewhere down the road.
Yep. I mean, it could not just be a garage conversion. Maybe you're converting a screen patio, things like that. So we see that a lot around here. And while it's nice to have the extra square footage, just some things to think about. So topic of the week next week, like we really went long on maybe these topics are actually ones that are going to take us longer, and we should factor that in the future. But that one came from us, from a viewer, and we really appreciate that. If you have any suggestions for next week or any of the following weeks, let us know. We are totally open to hearing what you want to talk about. And as always, make it as interactive as you want. We welcome you to ask questions throughout. And I don't see any, actually, I accidentally clicked off. So I'm not sure if we have any pending questions right now. I'll have to take a look real quick. But as always, make it as interactive.
Woo! No, doesn't seem like there's any questions on there.
Doesn't look like it. Well, good. Well, guys, we really appreciate, as always, everyone tuning in. Thank you so much from myself and from George. And we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Bye all.
Later.